Today is Bastille Day, mainly a celebration in France, the 14th of July, which marks a landmark event in French history where mobs of French revolutionaries stormed the Bastille fortress in the capital in Paris, and that was the home of the royal authority at the time and also a prison. And the revolutionaries seized the fortress, and this event really was a landmark event which led later to the French Revolution, the revolution which proclaimed liberty, equality, fraternity to all. An exciting event which not only was a celebration for France, but really for all nations and democracies around the world. Now, at the time, there were mixed views among Jewish leaders about their attitudes towards this new revolution and this new freedoms. Many argued that this was a beautiful movement to embrace for the Jewish people, because for so long Jews had been living in Russia, Ukraine, Eastern Europe, under such states of oppression and persecution without any social or economic standing. And finally, this movement can offer them an opportunity to live as equal citizens with protection of the law under the state. And this would be a much more comfortable, safer life for Jewish people. There were other leaders, however, one of the most prominent ones, the Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad Rebbe, and his colleagues, which argued against this. And they rejected this movement. And in fact, in the war of Napoleon against Russia, they supported the Tsar against Napoleon. And they argued that these freedoms will indeed bring a much more comfortable physical life to Jewish people, perhaps even a safer life. But it would be very harmful to their spiritual status. These freedoms would encourage Jews to just assimilate and become part of everyone else, and to forget or neglect the values and the traditions which distinguish them as different, as Jewish people. And, you know, this is a very harsh view, but in truth, if we look at the past few centuries of Jewish history, it's a very true opinion. Those nations where Jews enjoyed freedoms and equality really was spiritually harmful for Jewish people, and the Jewish communities there were harmed by assimilation, by adoption of just becoming one of the many, and losing their identities as unique Jewish people. You know, during times of persecution, the greatest enemies of the Jews are the enemies, the anti-Semites. But during times of great freedom, the greatest enemy for the Jewish people are the Jewish people themselves. And we see this here in America and all other free countries around the world. Now, about 30 years ago, there was a very big shift, a moment by the Lubavitcher Rebbe in New York in 770 at a Shabbat gathering. And at that gathering, there were many guests from France that were attending. And the Rebbe said, you know, it's true that the position of my ancestor, the Chabad Lubavitcher Rebbe, the Alter Rebbe, was to reject the emancipation and the revolution of France out of a fear. However, nowadays times are different. And now is a time that we must welcome and embrace the freedoms that France and all other democracies have given to the Jewish people. Because, he said, we've seen for so many decades Jewish leaders in France who have created such an amazing storm and revolution of Jewish life, and bringing back thousands of Jewish people to the Jewish community, to Torah, to Jewish life. So that kind of environment has encouraged such a movement and a success. And the Rebbe explained that at this point we have matured, spiritually matured. And if we are serious about truly helping to create a better world, a more perfect world for all, then no longer can we just hide from society, but we must welcome our acceptance in society and step up and use opportunities to not just fit in, but rather to be vocal and be proud and express our knowledge, our wisdom of the Torah, of Jewish tradition, our awareness of God, and share that faith with the rest of society. Society needs it so desperately. When we are one nation under God, and everyone to worship God in their own way, that creates a much more successful, prosperous, conscientious nation, providing a good, meaningful life for all. Whereas, if we see a deterioration in these values, it truly harms society in a very grave way. And then the Rebbe turned to the French guests and he asked them to sing a nigun, a song. And the song request was, surprisingly enough, the French anthem, the La Marseillaise. Ay ladai, ay ladai, ay ay ladam, ay ladai, ay 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 ay. But not just to sing the melody itself, but they applied the melody to a beautiful prayer that we recite every Shabbat. The prayer of Ha'aderet v'amunah l'chai olamim, glory and trust is to the Creator of the world. Habina v'habracha, wisdom, knowledge, and blessing is to the Creator of the world. And it's a prayer that goes through the alphabet, the Hebrew alphabet, of applying many beautiful traits and attributes to God and recognizing that He is the source of all goodness in this world. So can you imagine the fusion of these words with the French anthem of liberation was such a beautiful moment, and it's such a meaningful gesture to utilize the freedoms, not to walk away from our duties and responsibilities, but rather to encourage us to be able to step up and perform them even more proudly. So, you ask, what are we celebrating about Bastille Day? I think we in America and the whole world and Jewish people have lots to celebrate nowadays. We are very fortunate to live in a great country that's given us protection, security, and freedoms. And we should figure out how to use these opportunities not to walk away, not to assimilate, not to forget who we are, but rather to do what we and the rest of society needs to stand up proud as Jews, share our message, share our teachings that will truly benefit the rest of society here in America and the whole world, and will create greater peace for everybody. God bless you, and viva la revolución!